Teachers of Reddit, when did you realize a kid was gifted? I teach special ed, and people talk about savantism when it comes to Asperger's and autism, but the truth is that only really happens once in a blue moon. Well, I was lucky enough to teach a kid who was the genuine article. His grades were tops, and he taught himself programming in Japanese so he could go to Japan one day and make video games. We would spend his free time talking about astrophysics and recent documentaries. Every now and then he would ask me about something he had just absorbed and want to explain to me in detail. I just tried to keep up and ask him questions that kept him thinking about what is new information meant in context and what in the big picture of the universe or life or gaming or social interaction. Unfortunately, the kid had no ability to emotionally regulate, because that's just how the condition hit some people. Loud noise and unclear rules could send him into a hella rage. There's one classroom he could go into because he could hear the electric hum in the lights and he bothered him to violence. I mostly just taught him coping mechanisms and being honest about his feelings so he could tell when he needed to leave a situation. Oh, and I taught him poker. He liked the math behind the probability, and I used exaggerated bluffing to teach him facial expressions. Great kid. I am excited to learn what he goes on to do. My mom taught for over 30 years, both special ed and regular ed. She had plenty of super smart kids during that time, but the one we remember most was Marty. Marty had some pretty serious emotional issues and was on the autism spectrum. However, he was next level gifted with art and music. Completely perfect pitch. Could sing beautifully. Played multiple instruments. He had an incredible sense for color and space. His art was professional level when he was in high school. Both his art and music teachers called him a once-in-a-lifetime student in terms of talent. But he had zero ability to regulate his emotions, had no sense of social norms, and was what most people would call strange. Despite all this, the other kids really liked him because he was more kooky than mean or difficult. My mom adored Hi Monsieur. She kept in touch with him for years after graduation. He ended up meeting a woman who was a really great influence on Hi Monsieur. She kept him grounded and accepted him for who he was. They married and moved to her home country. He has a career as a graphic designer and music is his side passion. He plays for fun in some bands and writes and composes some of his own stuff. She hasn't heard from him in about 5 years, but hopes he's still doing well. Biology teacher here. Had a new student come in at age 15. He didn't talk much, but he did all his work as asked and did it well. One day we were having a class discussion about something and he joined in. It ended up being a back and forth between just the two of us, and at some point I realized I was discussing pretty high-level stuff with a 15-year-old. He's a neurosurgeon now. I knew when he surprised me by reassembling an engine out of a car all by himself in a single 90-minute class period. It was right before school let out for COVID. I had to hurry up and get some projects thrown back together quickly since school was closing. He asked to do it, so I let him try and went off to do other things. By the end of the class it was completely assembled. Never asked me for help and it was working. Definitely gifted. You just met Anakin Skywalker. After less than 1 year of music lessons, it was clear the student would likely become a concert pianist when he learned 15 bucks. 2-part inventions from memory, and played them brilliantly. Username checks out. I'm a preschool teacher and I knew a 3-year-old girl that had very extensive vocabulary and could already read really well. Once during lunchtime, a little boy scarfed down his food and her response was, "Well, he must have been famished." I was blown away. She also taught me about the digestive system once during lunchtime, and it was accurate information. But her favorite subject was the solar system. She was full of facts about the solar system, and she would teach me new things all the time. I always told her mom that she wasn't ready for kindergarten. She's ready for college. Took a summer job helping at a daycare. One of the toddlers, about 18 months old, was way ahead of the rest, could talk full sentences, knew his ABCs, could count beyond 20, already had shapes and colors down. I've seen kindergarten-aged kids that haven't mastered some of these things. He's in his early 20s now with a master's in engineering and a six-figure salary. It might not be the standard. However, I was speaking in complete sentences and whatnot around the same age. And I'm a stoner that does landscaping. I was always years ahead of my peers in school until one day I just wasn't. Might literally never do homework unless I'm actually going to fail. Policy might be responsible for that, though. Edit. Every Redditor and their mother relates to this. Why am I not surprised? Hello, my fellow burnouts. This is extraordinarily common. Students who are never truly challenged don't learn the study and work habits required for success. Our public school system regularly fails our smartest individuals. This is known psychology. I was teaching distance over time graphs. The students stated that if the line just went straight up that it would indicate teleportation, because distance has been gained but no time has passed. This was 5th grade science. Edit. This kid ended up skipping 6th and 7th grade, 5th to 8th. He was a super humble kid. I miss having him in my class. If the line goes straight up, it indicates you are a photon, or that you are existing in all of the places at the same time. And there are a lot of places. 2 dots vertically would be teleportation. Jesus, what a noob 5th grader. This kid was always bright but never really inspired by much of what he did. Seemed a little lazy but wasn't troublesome. He was just kind of a neutral kid in the class. Though we did one day of Lewis structures and he thought it was too easy. Gave him a harder worksheet which he finished in like 3 seconds. So I gave him an organic formula that had 12 different isomers and some resonance structures. He came up with all of them in less than 15 minutes, including ones that had to do with how the object would look in 3D, even though we never covered it. Kid is currently working on his PhD at Yale in organic chemistry. I guess I saw it right from the start. She started walking ridiculously early, like 6 or 7 months. Started talking not long after that. Declared around a year and a bit, I don't like diapers. I'm not going to use them anymore, and was toilet trained after that. Started talking to dead people not long after that. One of these is not like the others. I agree. Who the fuck can walk after 6 months? An interesting test for toddlers is to see if they can hold an extended, back and forth conversation with adults. Most kids at this age, and most grown-ass adults, are just asking for something or telling you something. Not a teacher, but a student with a gifted kid in his class. In 3rd grade we had a new student come in who had just moved to the country with his family. Our teacher saw he was smart. She challenged him with some math we were meant to learn in a couple weeks. He solved the problems, no problem monsieur. Next she tried some 4th grade level math. Again he solved it with no problems. After that she called in one of the 5th grade teacher and she gave him some problems meant for 5th graders. As expected he solved those without any problems. They kept going until he got a question partially right, I believe, but at that point they were giving him stuff intended for early, mid-year 6th grade students. Last I heard this kid got a degree in mathematics from Carnegie Mellon University. I'm a spec ed teacher and one of the other teachers had a kid really struggling in math, like down 2 to 3 grade levels. I was asked to test a bunch of kids including him, some of whom were ESL, so I decided to use a test that strips away most of the language to test pure math skills. This kid scored easily 3 grades above, and even higher in algebra. He is actually a superstar in math, but struggles with written language. What an awesome moment to be able to tell him that he's not behind in math, but actually really good at it. One thing that's always bothered me is how early we start teaching word problems. Reading comprehension and math are 2 different skills. Let them grow a bit before trying to mush them together. I bet the situation you wrote about is fairly common because of it. I used to put a math joke puzzle in the corner of the whiteboard. Essentially 3 golden triangle numbers arranged in a triangle, and a puzzle which gave the letter I as a result in the middle. In short, it was an Illuminati joke. I had this up for quite a few classes, with nobody being able to guess what on earth it was. Until the last class of the day, a student who suffered from particularly invasive autism just came in. Took maybe 3 seconds at most, and then laughed saying, "Why have you drawn the Illuminati symbol on the board?" Quote, "It wasn't so much that it was impossible. I was just blown away by how quickly he managed to do it. I'm curious what the puzzle was that gave the letter I. SQRT-1. Imaginary, like the Illuminati." When she never got a single question wrong on any of my assignments and ended each marking period with an average higher than 100 due to extra credit assignments. My high school valedictorian was a lot like this, and our calc teacher was the kind of controlling bitch that insisted nobody gets an A+ in my class, so she put an impossible question on one of our tests. I will never understand that mentality. A lot of my tests were difficult, but she still managed to ace them all. I would do a Jeopardy-themed extra credit quiz game the day before each test, so she always ended with a grade above 100 on each test. Could also be just that the kid works hard. When I was in high school, there was this guy Simon. Super nice guy. Honestly wish I'd kept in touch. He and his brothers were all on the football team and hockey team and were 100% sports bros. Simon never really came off as clever, typical jock. You know, I was the clever kid, being gifted and all that. But as I heard it, Simon's parents had a rule: straight A's or no sports. So he worked his ass off. He studied. He did extra credit work. He took every minute available of every semester and he got the grades. And every year, being clever became less useful and working hard became more useful. My grades got worse. His got better. Pissed me off, because clearly I was smarter. How come I don't have better grades? It took me a long time to understand that nobody gives a shit how smart you are. They care about what you can deliver. Lazy people don't deliver. According to LinkedIn, he's doing way better than me now. No surprise. Nope, she was just genuinely smart as hell. She skipped a grade too. 11-year-old girl, year 7. In my maths class, she started asking questions that would have stumped the brightest in my top set year 11. It was a delight to have her in my class, and I'm so jealous of the teacher who gets to teach her. This year, what kind of questions was she asking? Fellas, is it gay to breathe? Yeah, it's easy to tell around Christmas or a birthday. I came into the room. He was playing a few strings on the guitar. I asked what it was and he soft-pedaled it. I pushed a bit further and he started playing what he'd written. I was blown away. Of course it needed a bit of fine-tuning. A guitar solo in the middle, and a few ooh-la-las here and there, but he'd written a legitimate rock song. Blew his parents away when we played it in concert. One of my kindergarten friends had a guitar for 1 year. He was able to play everything. Started to take lessons. In the first one, his teacher told him he cannot teach him how to play the guitar better, since he knew it all. The teacher was not some self-taught guy. He studied music and classic guitar on a university. Instead, he gifted him a book on how to write songs. My mill had my husband when she was 15. Sometimes during college she had to take him with her to class because she couldn't find a babysitter. My husband would raise his hand during class and ask relevant, thoughtful questions. By the time he was in 3rd grade, around 7-ish years old, he was able to do statistics. His mom just got her 2nd master's degree, and my husband is still annoyingly intelligent, lol. One child, he was more ahead of his peers in every aspect. It seemed like he was babysitting the rest of his classmates. After a week of teaching the class simple coding, He built a fully functional multiplayer game with material he taught himself. This was at age 8. Another child consistently produced excellent work, finished early and could discuss his viewpoints in depth and actually made me change my viewpoint. He was brilliant in maths. Once I was explaining a new concept to the class and worked out one example together. I told them that I would guide them in the second example so that I can help whoever needs an eye. Here a really genuine and cute oops. I just finished them all now. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.